What is up, everybody, and welcome to FLW Videos. In today's episode, we will be extending into the deep dive series talking about Lapras. With the event coming out for Lapras and gaining access to two legacy moves, Ice Shard and Ice Beam, I figured a lot of people would be very curious as to what they should do with their Lapras and kind of deciding should you invest the Stardust into it from a raid perspective. But we will be talking about Lapras from the raid perspective as well as PvP, and then of course where it will dominate. So I'm very excited to get into this episode. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. Lapras with a max AP of 2,641. Lapras is a dual type Pokemon of water and ice type. Taking a look at the stats, its best stat is its stamina stat at 277, its worst stat being its attack stat at 165, ranked at 249th in Pokemon Go, but an overall ranking of 121st. Taking a look at the moveset, we've got quite a bit of moves if we talk about the legacy moves being included, and that is very important to talk about because, like I said before, Ice Shard and Ice Beam are now available for Lapras because of the 3-hour event window. So with all of this, we need to go ahead and talk about it from a raid perspective and kind of get this out of the way. For anybody who just uses it from the raiding side of it and doesn't necessarily care about PvP, you're probably gonna be disappointed with Lapras. Let's go ahead and take a look at some raid results versus a Rayquaza. With Rayquaza being double weak to the Ice type, you would expect to see a lot of Ice type Pokemon kind of leading the charts. And that's exactly what happens, but what you are going to have to do is scroll down pretty far to find yourself that Lapras in at the number 17 spot with Frost Breath and Ice Beam. Yes, those are the legacy moves, but when we talk about its performance, it's really not going to be that great of a Pokemon from the raid perspective, even with these legacy moves. So then you're asking yourself the question, well, is it worth doing anything with if it's not going to be from a raid perspective? And the answer is yes, and it has to do with PvP. We have a couple of really good things going on from the PvP side, simultaneously not having to invest a lot of resources into Lapras, so it will just be a ton of fun, and I want to go ahead and talk about why. First thing that we can talk about is the CP ranges related to Lapras in at level 20. If you do manage to go out and get yourself some of those Laprases during the 3-hour event, you will see that the catch CP will be from 1435 to 1509. And the reason why that is so important is for the fact that it will automatically qualify for the Great League, assuming you get below or at 1500 CP. And the benefit to this is that you're not going to have to invest any Stardust into it from that perspective as far as powering up is concerned. If you do want to unlock a secondary charge move, I could easily see that, but to be honest, that would end up being the only investment that you would really have to make from the PvP side. So let's go ahead and talk about how good Lapras can be from the PvP, talking about it from the Great League specifically. I thought it would be a good idea to take a look at a couple of the cups that Lapras qualified for. For example, if you take a look at the Tempest Cup, you will see that Lapras along with Cilio were constantly considered to be some of the meta-relevant Pokemon. Simultaneously, if you take a look at the Kingdom Cup, you are seeing something very similar with Cilio and Lapras. So what this kind of says to me is Lapras tends to do very well when we talk about these different themed cups that only focus on a couple of different typings. If you try to go look for Lapras from a general PvP Great League sense, it's not necessarily going to be considered a top option. At the same time though, it is always considered to be one of the better options that you have dependent on the types that you get. So basically what I'm saying is if you get a water slash ice type Pokemon, you're always going to see Cilio and Lapras at the top. However, a lot of people have opted to go for the Cilio side for the simple fact that even if you wanted to use Lapras, you had these legacy moves that were not necessarily available anymore. Now we end up getting that chance because of this 3-hour raid event where we can get Ice Shard and Ice Beam, and now I think a lot of people are going to have access to it. A lot of people are going to choose to use this maybe over a Cilio, and then simultaneously there's also a double legacy Dugong that you can use as well that I personally have used in the past, but that is only because I did not have a double legacy Lapras. So I personally think that it is going to be at least a bit of an investment from the PvP side, but a solid one. But to be honest, you only have to focus on it really from just unlocking a secondary charge move But even if you don't do that, you're not going to lose anything from it. That's what I love about this. You end up getting a lot of reward from it, but the cost to it is really nothing because you got the 5 free raid passes, because you got this Pokemon around the 1500 CP. You're not going to have to power it up. You can still use it. Definitely a cool Pokemon. Something else that I think is kind of interesting is the fact that it is a shiny Pokemon with a double legacy moveset that you can have on it. Lapras also has a cool fact about it with the shiny variation becoming available. This has only happened a couple times in Pokemon Go history where you have a shiny variation along with a double legacy moveset being available to the shiny. Another example of this would be Gengar with Lick and Psychic during its 3-hour raid window. So definitely kind of an interesting situation with that. And then, of course, a bit of an old school one that people might forget about is, of course, a shiny Gyarados that can have access to a double legacy moveset through the Dragon type movesets. So definitely very interesting. So yeah, that just about wraps up the video, but I want to know what you think about Lapras in the comment section below. What do you plan to do with it? What are your thoughts on the shiny? Definitely let me know anything and everything in the comment section below, and I will see you next time. I wanted to extend a huge thank you to the supporters over at Patreon. You definitely make this possible, and I 100% appreciate the support. If you are interested in supporting my channel on Patreon, definitely feel free to check out the link in the description.